I'm Justin Davis, and this is Drone Camps RC. What might be the best deal out there right now for a GPS beginner drone is the Beast SG906 4K and 1080p versions, but don't get it confused by the 4K option. Is 4K photos, not video. 2K video and 1080p for the 1080p video option. It records the media down to the phone you're using, Android or Apple iOS. And it comes with a pretty nice case. The price is really cheap to get into it, $122. Non-restricted flight zones, which most people love. It also has a pretty nice case that actually looks on par with some of the MGX RC stuff. Nice waterproof zipper lining right there all the way around. Soft foam padding on the inside. And this is the drone, the controller, the battery inside, 7.4 volt, 2800 milliamp, getting me about 25 minutes flight time on this quad. Press the LED readout right there, shows the battery levels, and we can charge it by USB cable, which is really nice. Charges up in about an hour and a half's time for each battery. Also, 3 different instruction manuals. One is a video tutorial link, also the software instruction with the QR codes inside for iOS and your Android China version and a US mobile version. HFun Plus is the app you're going to use. Go ahead and calibrate the compass for the first time. After that, you don't have to if you go to the same spot. Connect to the Wi-Fi first. You don't need a password on this one, which is nice. You have modes on there: follow, orbit, and waypoints, and an emergency stop motor button on board. And this is the user manual, which is actually quite involved. It has all the options for your controller and making sure everything is properly calibrated. The remote has a speed button on the side and RTH button, on-off button right here, and your video mode button. And lastly, over here we have the 4K photo button right here. And this is your throttle stick right here, and left and right will give you yaw axis, and we have our aileron and our elevator axis right there, forwards, backwards, left and right. These posts lift up to hold your smartphone. They both have rubber grips on. And if you pull these two out, these are your antennas, which actually do have antennas inside. On the display screen on the remote, you have your signal strength, how many satellites are connected, you have your height and your distance, and the mode you're flying in, and the TX and RX battery levels. And over here on this side, we have camera up and down options. On the left-hand side, we have headless mode and a 1-button takeoff and land button. It also takes 4 AA batteries in the back to power the transmitter, and it has removable sticks. Thank God for that. That's really nice for travel, so you don't break these off in transport. And the drone itself actually has a nice design aesthetic to it. It looks a lot like the MGX RC quads. It might even have been produced by MGX RC. It also looks kind of like the DJI Air. On the bottom, this is the camera antennas that running 5.8 and your sensor on the bottom. And what's really cool is if you broke your camera, you can remove this camera and replace it. There are parts available for this camera, so no worries if you crash and break your camera. I think that's a nice option. And I love the way it looks up front. Everything is really flush looking. The design looks really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and fold out the arms now, the SG906 front arms, now the back arms. It has that same original stance like the original DJI Mavic has. 1806 brushless motors on this baby are powering it quite a lot quieter than your phantom size quads, and really nice LEDs. They look really nice outside. We did test it in low light levels, and you can really see the green and the red in the back. Also in the bag, you get 4 extra propellers, which is nice, a screwdriver, and some extra hardware. And let's go ahead, guys, and let's zero out the scale now and see what we get for a weight, because I know you guys want to see what it weighs. It does weigh over 250 grams. It weighs in at 532 grams total takeoff weight. Now let's go ahead and do the flight test. First thing we're going to do is the hover test. The GPS hover test. It has to hover in one spot. It looks like it's holding a really good position, so we're good to fly. If you see yours start to toilet bowl or spin around a little bit, you want to go ahead and land it and recalibrate the compass, because when you use your flight modes, you might have some problems with the positioning. Now let's go ahead and go out and do some forward flight. We're just going to take it up there. It is quite fast. If you're looking for a fast trainer drone, this is a pretty fast one. I hit the return to home button on the left hand side of the remote, and now we're going to watch the drone come down. If it lands within a 10-foot radius, that's a pretty good landing for a GPS drone, especially a toy version. The DJIs will sometimes land directly right on the landing pad that you took off from, but this one is only a couple feet off, which is acceptable. So let's go ahead and check out the video itself. No electronic stabilize mode. You also have another mode with electronic stability on there. And it looks pretty good. And I have to say, the first thing that I did notice is that it turns sort of like an RC airplane. That's because it doesn't have a 3-axis stabilized gimbal on board, or a motorized gimbal in fact. So straight ahead flying looks pretty good. The sky is pretty blown out up there. The ground actually looks pretty good. And another thing that I did notice about this drone, if I can get really critical, I don't really notice any jello in here. I do see some side to side shuddering in moments where I change direction or I abruptly change the throttle. It is very sensitive on the throttle and it does really fast movements. Very similar to a lot of toy drones that will give you that sort of robotic feeling on the sticks. This one doesn't feel quite as robotic, but at times it did. When I pushed on the stick a little too fast, like a beginner would, you're going to get some pretty abrupt and jittery motion in your video. But this doesn't look actually very bad at all. The colors look great. And up high, a little bit higher, you can see a little more definition in the clouds. And you're looking at the electronic stabilized version right now. Got that down in the lower left hand of the screen. Now we're going to try out gesture mode. I don't even really know if that worked at all. Kind of awkward. And then there's the 4K photo. What a handsome guy that guy is. Now we're going to go ahead and try out the orbit mode. Orbit mode works from the position that the drone started out in when you press the button. So the drone will turn and fly away from its point where you started it at, and it will look like it's looking the other way like this, and then all of a sudden it switches around and turns back around. Thank God. So it looks like orbit mode actually does work on the Beast, which I'm pretty happy about, and it actually works pretty good too. So I'm very, very happy that it does work. The one thing that I would maybe get a little bit critical on would be the speed. I'd like to be able to change up the speed, but again, I am super happy that orbit mode works. Hallelujah. The one thing that I couldn't really get to work was the follow me mode. That was a little bit of a disappointment, but I think the up close video as well, it has a pretty nice looking camera on there for what it is. Now let's go ahead and go back up, and you can tilt your camera up a little more, just like that. If you do change your camera angle, it will be a little bit abrupt, and sometimes there is some light shift in the definition of the light that you see in the landscape mode right here. Now we're gonna go just do a little bit of flying over the field right here. And I'm actually pretty impressed with the video. I think it turned out a little bit better than I was thinking it was going to be. You can see a little side-to-side jitter at times, but overall, for the price, this is actually a pretty cool drone. If this was your first drone to start out with, the SG906 would pretty much do just about everything for you as a beginner that some of the more expensive ones can do. Orbit mode, follow me. It also has waypoints. You can play around with those. My favorite option on this drone is the removable camera. Some of the more expensive ones do not have a removable camera, so if you crash, there's no way to replace it. If you need to replace this one, you can buy a new one on the website and pop it on there. That's really kind of nice. And that connects back to your phone. Your phone must have 5.8G Wi-Fi on board to be able to run this. But I think my biggest takeaway for the day is the long flight time, around 25 minutes. The batteries are around $25. The whole design is super sleek and cool looking, and most of the modes did work really, really well. So I'm pretty happy that it also has GPS and return to home. If you have a failure, it has 3 modes of GPS return to home, and that's really nice. So into your battery, push button, and loss of signal return to home. It's got all the bells and whistles for the price. Not a bad drone at all. I'm liking the Beast, SG906. Guys, take care, and thanks for watching. I'm Justin Davis. I'll see you on the next one.